Hello, and thank you for joining me. Today, what I want to do is, if you watched the video unboxing the new dragon molds, I received 4 dragon molds and 1 pirate mold. Now, I have already poured the large dragon skull mold and the largest of the small dragon molds. What I want to do today is I want to go ahead and pour the pirate and then the remaining 2 small dragon molds. Now, as you can see, I have a lot of stuff up here because I have a lot of ideas for these because there's a lot of detail. Like if you look in the pirate, you can see that there's a little skull here. There's the face, the teeth, and the beard looking thing, and a hat. So I have a lot of products out here because I'm trying to keep my stuff separate from myself as well, because it took me a long time to decide what I want to do with each of these. So instead of explaining them in advance, I'm going to go ahead and just start working on them. Let me move this stuff out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and get started. First thing I want to do is put my gloves on, and I will explain what I'm doing as I'm going because there's just so many different products that I want to use. And I just ripped that glove. Let me grab another glove. I'll be right back. All set. I have my gloves on. Get rid of that glove. Like I was saying, there's so many different products that I want to use that it's just easier to explain as I go. And I will put a link to some of the products that I use in the description box below. This is just red acrylic paint. And I don't know if this is going to work. Now, I have used some acrylic paint to mix with some resin, just a little bit, just to add some color. Not too much because of the whole resin doesn't like water. But what I want to do is I want to take the little end of my dotting tool and just put it in that red and see if I can. I don't know if you can see on the pirate's eyes, but it looks like pupils there. I'm going to see if I can't dot those on there. And I don't know. I mean, it may just stay put. It may ruin I hope it doesn't ruin the mold. But I'm hoping that it'll end up in the resin. Let me add a little bit more right there. Same thing with this dragon. It does have a little spot for the eye. Let me put that, let me see if I can find it again and put this in there and show you. I'm look real hard. I want to make sure I get it in the right spot. So like right there. The other dragon, I don't see anything like that. So let me go ahead and, I don't know. I mean, I see, I don't think there may be like a little tiny spot there and there. All right, let me go ahead and clean my tool off and we'll start on the next step. And I don't know, I'm hoping that once I pour it, that red ends up in the resin and not just stuck to the mold. I've never tried to do this, so we'll find out. All right, let me go ahead and set that red aside. And for this guy here, I don't know if this is going to work either because this is not a translucent mold. But what I'm going to try to do is just put a small layer of white, the Let's Resin white UV resin in there and try to cure it. So let me see if I can slowly get this in there. And I don't want a very deep pour with this simply because I want it to cure. So I may have to do more than one layer. Let's see if I can get that started in there because, again, I don't want it too deep. me see here. Let me see if I can just use my tool to spread it around and start curing it. And while it's curing, I'll work on something else. And because I am going to backfill it with black, the black pigment paste, this may not show up, but I want to do that. And let me go ahead and put a little bit like where his teeth are at, just a little bit. And I might, I'll probably have to do it in layers because I do want it to cure. So I'm going to stick it under there and let it start curing. While that's curing, I'm going to mix up a little bit of the Let's Resin yellow green because I actually want to try to do the pirate's face in a glow yellow green. So that is the glow in the dark. And I really do. I love the glow in the dark. So let me go ahead and get a little bit of just regular clear UV in here. And I don't need a whole bunch. And again, I just want to do it. I want to do it in like layers because of the fact that I can't cure from the other side because the mold is solid and not translucent. So let me see if I can get just a little bit of this. Shake just a little bit in there. Give it. That's a little bit much. Man, I get heavy-handed. Give that a little stir. Turn that back on. And see if I need to add any more. I may add a little bit more of the clear resin to it. I'd rather have too much than not enough. And I'm not putting a whole bunch of color in this, just a little bit in hopes that it'll shine through a little bit on the face. I mean, I realize that once I fill it with the black, it may not come through very well. But some, I hope, at least some, kind of give it a pale, eerie feeling, I guess, or appearance. I'm just waiting for this light to go off, and I'm going to pull this back out. And let me see if I can, and this is going to be tricky. I want to slowly pour this on the pirate's face without going over the eyes there. Stop there. See if I can get it down here. Let me stop and use my tool to try and spread some of that. There are a lot of little nooks and crannies in this. But I'm really hoping that these little extra details will pay off in the end. And I am hoping that this will cure. I'm going to try to add just a little bit more. Just a little. There, and I need a little bit down here. All right, did I get all of his face? I think so. Let me go ahead and get that back under the light. And I'm going to set this aside for a moment while that's curing, because I am going to go back in with another, at least one more layer of the white. And while that's setting there, let me get a brush and kind of talk to you about what I'm going to do for this dragon. Now this dragon it's small, but it's got a lot of details. And of course, on the body itself, I want to go in with the Let's Resin Chameleon Galaxy Powder. I love this stuff. This is probably my favorite thing to use. And I know I use it a lot, but that's why I love the way it looks. So I plan on brushing his body with this, and then I want to come back in, and the this is the lime, and it is the chameleon flakes, and that's what I wanted to try to do the wings with the green lime chameleon flakes, and this will be super shiny, or should be anyway. But I am going to brush the galaxy powder on this, and I'm going to use some galaxy powder on the body of this, and I'll brush all of that first. And on this one, I want to use the fuchsia in the chameleon flakes for the wings. But I'm going to brush the chameleon flakes last because they are a bit messy. So I'm going to wait for this light to go off, add a little more of the white, and start curing it again before I start brushing. Let me move this out of the way for now. I don't know if I need any more of that or not. That's the glow in the dark. Let me get this lid off and get ready. Oh, I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but his little face has got some green, pale, sickly looking color, which is in a strange, odd way what I'm going for, simply because this just reminds me of the pirate on the Johnny Depp movie. So let me put some white in there, some white back in the teeth, stick that back under there, and start curing it. That should be, I hope, enough. Now I know when I come back in with the black that it's gonna darken it, but hopefully it'll still add some depth. All right, I'm gonna let that cure, and while that's curing, let's go ahead and start on this one with the galaxy powder. And I know I do this every time, but that stuff is so pretty. And there's a lot in that container, which is nice because I love to use it. So I'm going to try to brush this on without getting it on the wings. So let me see if I can lay a foundation. And there's a lot of little nooks and crannies in this. I'll have to go back in with the tool. There's a lot of little details on these little tiny molds. I'm actually hoping that because this is a thinner mold and so is the other one, I would love to be able to put a dragon inside of a rolling tray without it causing me the same problems it did the first time with the other dragon that I tried to use. All right, I'm going to go in now with my tool and see if I can, let me add a little extra powder there. I'm going to go in and see if I can't get it in all of these little nooks and crannies in here. And I'm hoping that my resin will flow in there. So far, I've not had a big issue with that, which is nice. But there are some teeny tiny little spots on this. All right, let's see here. I'm going to see if I can't give it a thump over here. Make a mess over here. And let you peek in there. And then the wings I'll do shortly. First, I want to go ahead and dust this one, the body on this one, because I know that those chameleon flakes, they're beautiful. They are messy though. Again, I'll need to get my tool up in there for all these little details. I I don't know what my fascination is suddenly of dragons. I never thought too much about them until I started doing resin and was gifted a dragon mold. And these were also gifted. All right, I'm going to get my tool in there. I'm just going to keep turning that light on because I want that good and cured, if at all possible. Let me move the powder out of the way and see if I can't get my tool up in here and get all of these little spots. And then when I give it a thump, I'll give you a peek see. See if I can't get it up in that little tiny crevice. There are some really tiny details, but the small details seem to make all the difference. Okay, let me give it a thump over here where I've already made a mess. And let you look at that. But see all the little tiny, tiny details. All right, let me set that aside. I'm going to go ahead and clean some of this mess up. Oops, don't spill though, don't spill. And let me look at this guy and see what I think. I think I think that's probably full enough because when I come back in with the black, but let me go ahead and do his hat. And what I want to do his hat with is I want to, for whatever reason, I think a pirate's supposed to have a red hat. I don't know. I've never really met any pirates, but in my mind, their hats are red, so I'm going to make his hat red. And try not to get the mica on the face or the little skull that's on top of the hat. But I need to get it down. Let me see if I can. Let me clean this off and see if I can use this to get down in there because I really don't want to get it on the face. No, there's a little crevice here on his hat. I don't want to get it on the skull. So bear with me here as I'm doing this. I'm just so afraid if I use the brush, I'm going to get it everywhere. But at the same time, I can't get it in there with the tool. All right, let me see if I can get a little bit more up top here. Just right up above that skull. And then after I thump it, I may try to use an alcohol wipe to get the, I don't know if it'll work, to get the little spots that I got the red mica on that I don't want it on. So let me see if I can just kind of clean that skull. I'm just going to tap it in the top of that head, the face. Okay. Well, that's what we have so far. And when I mix the resin, I'm going to backfill that all with black. All right, let's go ahead and start with this. Again, I need to clean my tools off. And this is the lime chameleon flakes. And I know that they make a mess, but they are so pretty. I don't know. I don't ever think the camera can really pick up the colors as pretty as they really are. Let's see if we can get some of that in there. I'm hoping it'll brush on for me, because I want to burnish it on there. It doesn't, let's see here. Let's get in here, and I'll go back in with my tool in a minute. It took me a long time to decide how I wanted to do these pieces. I'm just really hoping to add extra depth. All right, let me go ahead and get my tool. Oh, I don't want to spill those. I'm going to get my tool in there and make sure I have it up in all those nooks and crannies. And I want it burnished because I don't want a whole bunch of little flakes. Let me give it a thump. Let me move that out of the way completely. All right, y'all. This is what we have for this one. And again, I'm just going to go back in with black to pour that. So let me move that out of the way. And let's do this one. This is almost like a twin to the last dragon I poured with the details. It almost looks like a twin, but I did not want to do it the exact same. So this is the fuchsia chameleon flakes. And again, I kind of want the, oh, those are so pretty. I don't know. I mean, unfortunately, the camera does not pick up just how pretty they are. But the reason I wanted to do these last is I knew that they were going to fly around, and I didn't want any to stick to the dragon's body, and hopefully it won't. But look how pretty that is. There's some fine, fine details in here. Let me see if I can get that in there. I'm going to just get a little bit extra, kind of tap it on there, see if I can't use my tool to get it down in that lid. There's two little crevices here, and I really want these flakes in there if possible. And then there's a couple up here. But even like that, without anything else, that is so pretty. Let me give it a thump. Let's put the lid on this. All right, so what I'm going to do next is clean my mat off. But what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and mix up some resin. And when I measure these with water, I'll need to mix approximately 40 milliliters. It's actually, I think, a little bit less than that. And then I'm going to mix some black epoxy resin pigment paste into it. And that's the Let's Resin. I love this stuff. And then we'll do the pour. So let me go ahead and get the resin mixed, and I will see you shortly. The resin mixed. And let me go ahead and turn this guy this way. What I am going to do is I am going to just try to pour a little bit in here, allow it to just spread. And while that's working on that, I'll go to the next one and kind of do the same thing, because there's so many tiny little details in these. Let me grab my stick. And I did mix this. I mean, it's not translucent, but it's not super duper opaque either. I just really hope that the little skull and the face on this shows up at least a little bit through the resin. But I'm just going to pour some on here, leave it alone, let it start to spread. And I'm going to do that with all of those, and then go back in with the tool, the dotting tool. To be really careful on this one. Is so tiny. Move this one over here. And I hope I mixed up enough. I measured these with water. The water did not go in through in all the nooks and crannies, so part of it is definitely a guesstimate. Oh, stop there. Let me put maybe a little bit more here. I have a hair or something on my cup. Let me get that off. Let me see if I can get just a little bit down in this tail. I'm really not good with little bits. I can be so heavy-handed sometimes. I'm going to stop right there for a minute. See what we got going on. See a bubble here. And then this one looks like it could definitely use some more. It is starting to spread even in these little bitty nooks. And hopefully it'll spread all the way through. I have a feeling this one's going to be a bit of a challenge when it comes to unmolding. I don't know what that is. Let me get that off. Let me try to add just a little bit more to this one, so it can spread in those nooks and crannies over there. Get that bubble. And let's see what we got going on here. I don't know if you can tell that it is really spreading in all these little spots. So hopefully, let's see if we can get down in here ever so carefully. I think I'm going to use this end of the tool to try and just spread that apart a little bit and see if we can't get some resin down in there. Same with this one. A couple of them up here. They're starting to spread up there. I just want to help them a little bit. Right. Let me clean that off. And this. I don't want a whole bunch of over pour because then, boy, would that be a nightmare to clean, to try to get off. Okay, that's spreading some. Let's see what we got going on over here. Wow, y'all, that even spread up here in this little thing right here. So let's see if we can't. We definitely are going to need a little bit more because we have this little spot here. There's some lower spots by the feet. So this mold's going to need a little bit more. Let me pour a little bit more down there. And I do hope that UV cured. It's so hard when you can't work on it from both sides. Let's see, you got some more bubbles going on here. And I do see, let's see if I can set that down and try to get this tool in here without totally ruining things, and get that resin to go in there, and then I'll pour a little bit more ever so carefully. There's one here, there's one here, and there's one here. Let's see if I can't get some of that resin in there. There are some really tiny little details on this. All right, this one spot just keeps bubbling on me. And I don't know that there's really a way to, I'm going to try to bump it, but Let's go ahead and give it a little spray. There's a bubble here. And this spot's still a little bit low. So let me go ahead and move my stick. I'm gonna put a little bit more in this area and in the tail. They both look a little bit low. I don't want to go too fast. I really don't want over pour. And it looks like I may have some on this one. So let me see if I can clean some of that off. Now I'm not too sure why, because this tail looks really low. Turn it around. I forgot to. What I usually do when I work on a project is I will put my big level. This is a leveling table, and it does have a little level underneath here I look at. But then I will use my bigger level and try to level it all the way around. This is the second time recently that I have forgotten to do that, and that may be why I have a bit of a mess down here, because I did not check it. And I try to check it before I do any project. I need to maybe put that at the top of my list. I mean, I was doing it real well for a while there, but I guess, I don't know. Whoa. So I can get a little bit more down here, but I may have to work some more on that head, because I have a feeling my table is not level like it should be. Do a little more work down here, because with all those fine details, over pour. Let me see if I can grab a little popsicle stick and dip some of that out of there without scratching the bottom. Over pour, trying to clean that off would be a nightmare. I hope that when these are unmolded, like this one and this one, with all the little tiny details, I really hope that they all come out well. All right, well, mop that up a little bit more without scratching it. All right, well, what I'm going to do is I will bubble sit. I'm going to kind of watch this and see if it overflows again. And then I will let them cure. So I will see you in 24 hours for the unmolding. All right, see you shortly. It is time for the unmolding. And I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to show you something on here. This little spot here, I kept thinking, why does a bubble keep coming up? This is not a bubble. This is a part of the mold. So anyway, I fought with that bubble that isn't one for quite a while. Let me slowly try to get this out of the mold, because they are small and full of detail. I really don't want to break them. I'm trying to be ever so gentle. Oh, slow, slow. I really don't want to break these. See if I can't loosen them all the way around. Get that wing out. Ooh. I think we're almost there, y'all. See if I can curl it around that way. It's still a little bit soft. All right, let's see what we've got. I do see I have a little bit of over pour there, but as you can see, it's fine and thin. It should come off pretty easily with an X-Acto knife. So here we go. Oh, wow. I missed the eye though. The eye is actually down here. But yeah, I did miss the eye. It's down a little bit lower. So maybe in the future when I do this one, I'll wait until after I'm done pouring it to put the eye in. But didn't stick in the mold. It did come out. So hopefully with the pirate, the same thing. That's pretty darn cool. And it's so thin that it's a possibility I may actually be able to put that. I'm going to check and see if I can put one in the rolling tray. Here's the first one. Now this one is also, it has small details, especially up in here. So let me see if I can carefully just sort of start peeling that away. And then maybe curl it like I did that one. And on this one, y'all, you know, when I was pouring it, it puddled in the head area. So I flipped it around and it still wanted to puddle there. The other two didn't. So I'm thinking once I take this, get done unmolding these, I'm going to actually take a level to this to see if maybe the mold is unlevel. Because the other two didn't do that. And if it were the table that were unlevel, I would think that they would do that. We'll see. I'm just trying to be ever so careful with this because there's a lot of little tiny fine details. And yeah, it does look like I have a little bit of overpour, but it's very thin. Something that an X-Acto knife and some patience should take care of. There's just so many little details on here. I'm trying to be ever so careful. We're almost there. See if I can get the rest of this tail out without breaking it. There we go. All right, you guys ready? This is thin too, so it should work in a tray. Not very pleased with the colors that I just chose on this one. I mean, it's not bad. It's somewhat muted though. But the details are awesome. Even down to the little details on the tail, the details are awesome. Yeah, I would want to do this in different colors. Let me set that one down. And last but not least, we'll see on this one. I kind of don't expect the faces or the skulls to turn out very well because I did backfill it with black. But let's go ahead and find out. I'm just trying to be ever so careful because look at all of these teeny tiny details down here. Oh, I really want all those details to pop out, not to break in the mold. I have one here that's kind of stuck. I really don't want it to break. See if I can just kind of loosen that mold around there. I don't know if I should spray some alcohol in there. Oh, it looks like one of them did break. Darn it. See if we, oh no, it didn't. It did come out. See if we can get this last little bit out. Oh, y'all, look. There's no paint in there. I'm not too sure what that is. And look at all the little tiny details that came out. Let me move those. Maybe I do it that way so you can see. Little tiny details. All right, well, let's see how the face turned out. Oh, my goodness. Y'all, I like the way that turned out. I was not expecting it to turn out that good. The teeth are really showing up. And yeah, you don't see the green in the face, but it is a different color than the beard, the hat, and the skull. I really like the way this one turned out. This one, excuse me, details are amazing and beautiful. I should have done it a different color. This one I do notice, if you'll notice here, I don't know if these are bubble pits or part of the mold. Oh, they're part of the mold. Wow. I was going to say those bubble pits really add character, but it's part of the mold. I like the way that turned out. I was not expecting that. And this one, I like the way it turned out. I just did not get the eye where it needs to go, but I have learned. Do the eye on this one last because it's really hard to see in this mold. But the red came out without sticking to my mold or staining my mold. I like the way they turned out overall. And these are thin enough that if I pour like this one the right color, fix the eye, pour this one in and fix the eye, these will look good in a tray, I think. This would too, though. I just don't know if pirates and dragons go together. But anyway, that's how they turned out. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I do want to thank you for watching and ask you to consider hitting the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time. Thanks. I just wanted to hop on here real quick and just show you what I have. Another lesson that I've learned. You'll notice my table itself, I'm going to move that out of the way. It is level. I did check the table first. It is level. This is the mold that kept pulling up at the head. When I put my level on there, you see how off level that is? So that's definitely a lesson learned for me. I've never had that happen with a mold, but I will, for future reference, start checking all my molds before I ever pour. So that's why it kept pulling at the head. I thought it was because I did forget to check my table, because usually I do check it before each project. Anyway, I wanted to hop on here and let you know that. So I was also able to remove the paint from this, so I'm going to try to paint this eye. Anyway, those are the updates. Thank you. See you later.